My name's Nikki, and while I was in college as a full-time student athlete at UC Berkeley, juggling classes, intense workout schedules, and partying 3 nights per week, I scaled a sneaker resale business past $1 million per year. Shortly after college, I ditched my sneaker resale business to go all in on Amazon FBA and scaled that to $5 million in sales in just 2 years. This allowed me to quit my full-time banking job, move to Los Angeles, achieve financial freedom, and travel the world, places like New York City, Miami, Spain, France, Italy, just to name a few. Basically, I've built a life that I've always wanted for myself, but the crazy part is, in 2025, the Amazon FBA opportunity is way larger than the sneaker resale business opportunity that I had back in 2020 when I first started. And so in this video, I'm gonna break down the exact step-by-step process and all the tips and tricks that I did to build my Amazon resale business from 0 to $5 million in sales in just 2 years, so that you can have a step-by-step process to go and follow and hopefully replicate my success and make yourself a ton of money. So let's just get started. So on the far left is a picture of me running track at the Big Meet, the Calvert Stanford track meet. And this was back in 2018. So I was crushing it, things were good, grades were good, school was going well. You know, I was having a blast. And my schedule was very intense. As you can see, I built out kind of a mock-up of what a single day looked like for me. And it's basically nonstop from 5:30 in the morning until I would go to bed at 10 p.m. So I'd wake up, get ready, and then get to the gym because we had our morning workout to take care of. I'd grab a breakfast burrito shortly after the morning workout and get to class, typically a 3-hour block or so. I'd have lunch, chill on campus, then shortly after lunch, study, homework, nap, or another class, and then we had our afternoon workout. And so that typically went from 2 to 5 p.m. We'd typically commute somewhere to go and run these longer distances. I was a long distance runner. And so we had, you know, these 8, 10, 12, 15 mile workouts that we had to go and take care of. And running around campus got pretty monotonous. So luckily our coaches like to take us off campus. Shortly after our workout, I'd go grab some dinner. Then I'd get right back into studying, homework, or hit another class. Sometimes you have those later evening classes. Then I had some free time, hang out with friends, play some video games, just decompress a bit before I had to get ready, go to bed, and get right back into the next day. So this is what a typical weekday looked like. And then on the right, you can see what the weekends typically looked like. So Friday, Saturday, you know, we're going out partying, being social, typical college stuff. Getting hammered with your friends, having a good time, going to the frats, going to the bars, just being kind of a degenerate for the most part. And so then seemingly out of nowhere in the spring of 2019, something pretty devastating happened, but in the long run, something that was pretty awesome. I ended up getting injured. And so being injured basically entailed 7, 8 months of me wearing a boot or being on a scooter. And it was just a terrible, terrible experience. It was an overuse injury, a stress fracture that I basically got from running too much. And if you run too much, your bones break, you don't get enough time to recover. Tragic situation. So this is a picture of me over the summer at Six Flags. You can see on my right foot, I'm wearing a boot. And then I also ended up getting rejected from the UC Berkeley Business School. So tragic on all fronts. I'm injured. My social life kind of goes to shit. I fail basically the only thing that I wanted to do academically at UC Berkeley, which was become a business major and eventually graduate with a business degree. And so I was in a pretty tough place. It sucked, candidly. It was one of the worst periods of my life. I can talk about it pretty easily in hindsight now, but to deal with it in the moment and to have to go through all that adversity as a 19-year-old at the time, it was hard to do. I coped by playing Minecraft for probably 10 hours a day for a 2-week period immediately after I got injured. And so I was crushing it. I loved Minecraft as a kid growing up. I attribute a lot of my success actually, or to the lessons that I learned while playing Minecraft, factions specifically. I'm probably gonna have some of you that understand what Minecraft factions is like and how dedicated, how much time you actually have to spend, how you have to be strategic. And I was actually selling in-game items. So I would get so good at the game, get a bunch of different rare items, and then sell those to other people. And so entrepreneurial spirit kind of budding even from a young age. And I was doing that even in just these 2 weeks that I restarted my Minecraft passion. But pretty quickly, I just stopped being fulfilled playing Minecraft, right? I had this realization where I was staring at my laptop and I'm just clicking away like a keyboard monkey going crazy. And I realized if my laptop wasn't sitting there, I am basically just stimulating my brain. You know, I was making some money, but you know, 20, 30 bucks a day tops doing this. And I was just like, okay, what am I doing? What is it? There's no tangible real world effect to this. I'm just stimulating my brain and I need to find something different. And that's when everything changed. This was like the complete alteration to my life. So I have this realization and I'm basically having this existential crisis. What am I doing? What's the meaning of life? Why am I staring at this laptop, essentially doing nothing, just stimulating my brain? I need to make a change. And so that's when everything clicked to a degree. And I saw an ad, or, you know, I was scrolling on Instagram and it was kind of like this hand being reached out and I just just had to grab it, and I'm very, very happy that I did. Basically what I saw was people were making money online selling sneakers. And so they'd buy those sneakers online, maybe they'd enter a raffle, maybe they'd buy them online and check out through a normal Shopify site. But I saw this and I said, okay, these people are making money from their laptop. They're working on their own time for the most part. Sometimes you have to be there when the product is actually dropping because these are highly coveted drops. You want to be there on time, otherwise they're gonna sell out and you're not gonna get access to them. And so you probably have sometimes just a few minute window, maybe a few hour window to go and do this. Raffles, obviously you have a longer time to go and enter them, and then the winner is determined once the raffle and the drawing actually takes place. And so I saw these people doing this, and I actually had a friend who had been doing this in high school, and so I reached out and I just said, hey man, what are you doing? And he said, yeah, so I just buy sneakers and I sell them on the secondary market. There's these platforms like eBay, StockX, and GOAT, where if you buy these sneakers, people are willing to pay, whether it be collectors, consumers, or just, you know, people who are after these more luxury goods, they're gonna pay more than you bought the shoe for, more than the retail price. And so for me to hear that, I was kind of just like, wow, that's a thing? That doesn't make any sense. Why would they pay more than the retail price? And it's because these companies, you know, Nike, Adidas, if you think about Yeezys and Jordans, they produce intentionally a limited amount to create artificial hype. And so when you artificially suppress the amount of goods that you make, there's going to be a disconnect between the market price and the retail price that they're charging. So they'll make 100,000 sneakers. They'll all sell out at retail, and then more than 100,000 people want the shoe. And so they're gonna go and they're gonna pay more for the shoe on the secondary market. And they were doing this completely asynchronously from their laptops. You could ship the shoe to a tax-free state, for example. I'm getting a little into the nitty-gritty here, but I saw them doing this. I understood it. I purchased a cook group. A cook group is basically a group where they tell you things like where to find the shoes, what shoes might perform the best, and just keep you up to date on all the different releases that are going on. And so I was like, okay, I can get into this group for 10 bucks a month and I can just figure it out. I'll see where it goes. I wanted to get rich, basically. I realized that instead of just staring on my laptop and having nothing happen, if I could stare at my laptop and make money while doing it, while I literally could not walk because I was on a scooter or in a boot for the course of, 7-8 months, that would be a better result at the end than just staring at my laptop playing Minecraft. So what I ended up doing was just trying. I just tried to enter one of these raffles, and so I entered a raffle on the Sneakers app. The Sneakers app is basically Nike's app where you can enter these different raffles and you can see the different release dates and you get all the kind of cool information that is privy to these launches and how you can actually get these sneakers that everyone is after. And so I entered this raffle, and as you can see, if you know anything about sneakers, you know that Off-White, Virgil Abloh, was just blowing up in 2019, 2020, 2021. This really coveted designer who was just crushing it. He eventually worked with Louis Vuitton. And so being able to enter this and winning this raffle, I enter on like a Tuesday, and then I get this email on a Friday that says, you won the shoe. And all of a sudden my credit card gets charged $173.20. And I'm like, holy shit, this is insane. I just won this shoe. And I looked at the secondary market and I was like, what the fuck are you kidding me? The shoe was selling for over, I think, 600 bucks at the time. And so if I just pop over to StockX, this is like the marketplace for all things sneakers, collectibles, all these kinds of stuff. And it was a newer company at the time. But if we go down here to the bottom, we can see the price chart. And so the all-time price chart is right here. And so, it goes back a long time. But in February of 2019, I think I sold it right around in here for around 600 bucks. And so I essentially made $400 on just this single shoe. And so that was an insane moment for me. I was playing Minecraft. I had worked, jobs where I get paid hourly. I think the most I'd made hourly, I think I was 20 years old at this point, was 20 bucks an hour, somewhere in that realm. And what I did is I just entered a raffle. I won this shoe. I flipped the shoe on this secondary platform, and I made effectively the money I would have made for 20 hours of work. So you can probably see, imagine if you did this. Imagine if you entered a raffle and you won a shoe or you won an item, and then you were able to just turn around, ship it to somebody else, and they paid you over 3x what you paid for it, and you make 400 bucks. Insane transformational moment for me. And there was definitely a huge part of this that was luck, right? I won a raffle. It's not gambling per se to enter a free raffle, but there is luck involved. And in any entrepreneurial journey, I think that there is luck involved. If you land a first client, you get lucky and you land one client out of the first 5 people you contact, I would consider you lucky, relatively lucky. Because a lot of people are just gonna say, no, I'm not gonna be your first client. This is silly. And so for me to do this, I think there's luck involved in a lot of things in life. I think if you consider yourself a lucky person, you by definition will be more lucky. And it's better to be lucky than good. It just simply is. Especially when you're starting something new, luck is a form of proof of concept. And so for a lot of people, they just need proof of concept for something. They need to see someone who they know doing it. They need to experience it for themselves just a tiny bit. If you're looking for that proof of concept, please let this video serve as just the proof of concept that you can make money online. I was someone who at this point had never made money online. mine. Other than the Minecraft, maybe 20 bucks a day that I was making tops, I'd never done this. I was a complete beginner. And so we're gonna see where this took me. Obviously, we introduced what I was able to achieve at the beginning of the video, but you need that proof of concept. Let this be that proof of concept for you that it is possible and you can make it happen. But then what happens after you get lucky one time in a new business model? Odds are you're gonna hit a little bit of a slump. And so my slump was more than just a little bit of a slump. Over the course of the next 9 months, I continued trying, I continued paying for these groups, investing in new groups, and just trying to scale the business. For 9 months, I did not make over $1,000 in profit. That sounds like a long time. It felt like a long time. 9 months, I'm trying harder than I'd ever tried before, continuing to invest time. And again, I couldn't walk. So I kind of had nothing else to do, and it kind of forced me to do it. And sometimes you need someone or something to force you to do something while you're just learning, because that process, it sucks. But eventually it does end. And how did it end for me? It ended for me when the COVID pandemic started in 2020. March of 2020, I remember the day. Since quitting track and field, I had walked onto the rugby team. So after my injury, I wasn't gonna be as fast. I had kind of already become disenfranchised with running track in college. I walked onto the rugby team, a very accomplished UC Berkeley rugby team with a lot of accolades. And my season got interrupted and the whole world got interrupted with the start of the COVID pandemic. What did the COVID pandemic do for my business? Basically, Jerome Powell and the Fed turned on the money printers and they said, all right, we're gonna send out stimulus checks. We have to stimulate the economy. We don't want to go into a recession. We're going to give people free money. What do people do with that free money? They decided to buy luxury goods, which sounds fucking insane because it is fucking insane. If the economy's tanking and you're getting free checks in the mail because you lost your job and you go out and buy sneakers with it, that is crazy to me. But it's something where I had been trying to do this thing and all of a sudden there's just a ton of new cash. There are huge payments that people are receiving on a monthly basis where they're just funneling it into these goods. And so how did I monetize that? What happened from there? I had been trying for 9 months and I had learned a bunch of stuff. And so how do you get sneakers on a hype drop? You use sneaker bots. Who runs the sneaker bots? You could do it or you could have other people do it. How do you get multiple pairs? You ship to multiple different addresses, you use multiple credit cards, you jig your information. So you use a different email with a catch-all email, you use a different name, you use slightly different addresses, you maybe put like something in the address line 2 where you put like an identifier code or you put apartment 1 and it's just a house that you're shipping to, all these different things. I was ready to scale and I just needed some sort of thing to ignite it. And so all the money I'd made, I had probably made, $5,000 over the course of these 9 months. And so I invested all that money into sneaker bots. I had these anonymous people that I met online that are in these different groups. I had probably 5 of them, maybe even more. And I would give them the sneaker bots that I purchased and I'd say, you run these. I don't have time to wake up at 4 in the morning. I have to go and work out. I have to go and attend to classes. I have to do a variety of other things. And so I'm gonna have you guys run these sneaker bots. I'm gonna give you my virtual credit cards. So at one point I had, I think, well over 5,000 virtual credit cards that I got from Amex, the Tradeshift program that they had. And I think at one point, some of the Tradeshift guys called me and they said, yeah, you have some of the, or you're one of our biggest Tradeshift users, having thousands and thousands of virtual credit cards on their platform. Most clients, they didn't have the need for that. I think most of the people that had the need for this were sneaker resellers. These people that were going after luxury goods that were supposed to be sing one per customer type deal. And so yeah, it was pretty cool. I scaled up very quickly and the sneaker market exploded. Every hype sneaker drop, even stuff that was more general release. So you could go and buy a sneaker for $200, sell it the next week for $240. So think about how fast your money can compound if you have access to credit lines and you just pump all the money that you're making right back into the business to buy more inventory. And if you're compounding at, $200 into $240, hundreds, thousands of times every single month, you're gonna make a ton of money. If you keep that money in the business, it gets silly pretty quick. And so I pretty quickly went from making less than $1,000 every single month into making tens of thousands of dollars every single month. And so I was shipping the shoes that I bought all over the country. So you have tax-free states like Oregon, not Nevada, but I'll touch on that in a second. Oregon and New Jersey were the main ones. I would ship the sneakers, or I would have the individuals that were running the sneaker bots for me ship the sneakers to New Jersey and Oregon, and then from New Jersey and Oregon, those people, I think it was called a prep center at this point, or it was called something different. I forget exactly what it was called, but they basically take the shoes and just ship them where I told them to. And so I would typically find a bulk buyer that would take all the pairs that I purchased from a hype sneaker release and just do a one and done deal. I bought these for $200. You're gonna buy them from me for $240 a piece. I make the spread there. I would typically pay the individuals that were running my sneaker bots a nominal amount per pair. So let's say the retail price was $200. I pay them $5 every single shoe that they get me. And then I get to keep the profit on top when I sell it for $240. So there's a ton of logistical stuff that I had to take care of, like creating all the profiles, creating all of the virtual credit cards, making sure that I had addresses to ship to in both Oregon and New Jersey, people that I trusted. In some cases, I actually went out and visited some of the prep centers that I was sending to. And then otherwise, I was partying again. During COVID, I wasn't going out to bars and being crazy. I was in a very different space. I was terrified of COVID, honestly. I was kind of in this bubble my whole life, and a lot of people around me, they were very scared of COVID. They were thinking, oh, we're gonna die if we get COVID. I was terrified. I was seeing my family decently consistently because they were relatively close to Berkeley, where I was going to college. And so for the most part, we were just partying at our house. There was a group of my friends that would come over, a group of ladies that would come over, and we party. It was fun. So I'm partying at this point, during COVID, probably like more than 3 times per week, probably 3, 4, 5 times a week, because there was really nothing else to do. You'd work out during the day, I'd work on the business a little bit during the day, and then I'd do some school, and then we party because we couldn't do anything else. We couldn't go outside, lockdowns, all this kind of stuff. And the business exploded again, like I said, going from less than $1,000 months into $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 months reselling sneakers in college. And so as the business is exploding, I go from the terrible period of making less than $1,000 every single month for those first 9 months to making these $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 months. It's like the prime of my life. It's like the best I've ever felt. Over 30x your income within a 1-year period. It just felt like I was floating all the time. And it didn't feel like work, it felt like fun, and I'm just running around, and the effort when things are going well, effort doesn't feel like effort. It just feels like you're operating at an extremely high level, you're getting rewarded for it, and then that sort of dopamine cycle just makes you want to work even harder. It gives you energy, and you actually feel this like transcendent energy. It's like all of a sudden you sit up a little straighter and you smile brighter and your face lights up more easily. And it was the first time I've ever experienced that in my life. It was awesome. The next time I experienced that was with my Amazon business. But now fast forward a little bit and the business has changed. I've learned about things like tax exemptions and sales certificates where I can actually purchase the sneakers, ship them to California, where I typically get charged a 9% sales tax, and not pay tax because I would then be reselling the good. And so you can get something called the tax exemption with your state website, and they will allow you to not pay sales tax because they know that you're going to resell it to an end customer, and that end customer is going to be the one that's going to pay the sales tax. They don't want to double charge for sales tax. That's not the point of sales tax. But regardless, after about 1.5 years or 2 years of just crushing it with reselling sneakers, I started to see things leveling off. You had stimulus checks stop. We went into a bit of a rate hike situation where Jerome Powell is raising rates, and the economy is just getting too overheated, and they're trying to slow things down. People are tightening their budgets. They're not going to be spending as much money on sneakers anymore. And so I'm freaking out. I'm about to graduate college. I'm like, is my business going to die overnight? What I end up doing is getting a job at Morgan Stanley. And so obviously I was doing my economics classes. I was a good student. I'm a smart dude, and so I ended up applying and getting a job at Morgan Stanley on the venture capital and private equity team and doing that. And my business, my sneaker business, was still operational, but I could just see it slowly making less profit every single month. And I'm thinking to myself, I need to find something different. But as I was working at Morgan Stanley, I was busting my ass. I was working 50 to 60 hours a week, a lot of operational tasks. I still had that entrepreneurial itch. And so again, I'm online one day and I see this guy who's talking about, or I guess a series of posts from a variety of different people that are talking about Amazon FBA. And so that's when I got roped in, and I realized that that was such a better opportunity because the things that you could sell were things like kitchenware, clothing, and a variety of other products that are seen as necessities, right? These are not products that are luxury goods that people are only going to buy when they have free money that's getting handed to them by the government. You can sell people things that they actually need on a consistent basis to survive. And you're not going to go and purchase them for retail and essentially function as a scalper to, buy them at retail, buy them out of stock, and then sell them way above the retail price and just take advantage of the consumer. You can actually work with these different companies, or you can purchase them online and get them at prices under retail and then sell them at retail and still have room to make money. And so going from sneakers to Amazon, I really wanted something where I could more easily forecast exactly how much money I was going to be able to make per month because it was consistent, it was sustainable, and you could build a business where you're making consistent sales regardless of if there's a new coveted drop that's gonna happen at 4 a.m. And as I was graduating, going out into the real world, having to pay for my own expenses, that's sort of what I needed. I didn't need something that was sort of up and down, super volatile, make 5K one month, make 50K the next month. I just wanna be, nice and steady, making a lot of money consistently. And I think, of course, that is everyone's goal. It's easier said than done, but that is what I found with the Amazon FBA opportunity. So when I first got started with Amazon FBA, it was February of 2022, and I went about it the complete wrong way. I have it detailed elsewhere on my channel, but basically I made mistakes. I didn't know what I was doing. I was in these free groups, and in free groups, you get a variety of different information, and you have no one that really takes any sort of ownership or accountability in helping you. It's just, oh, I ask a question, someone answers. If I screw up along the way on my own, it's all on me. And that should be expected if you go out it alone. And so I ended up making a pretty costly mistake. It cost me over $3,000 very early on, and I ended up quitting. I got a very bitter taste in my mouth, and I was like, okay, Amazon doesn't work. This is bullshit. I'm gonna quit. And so I did for 8 months. And so I got back into it in October of 2022. I purchased a mentorship. And so what my mentor and I worked on was basically all of the things that he'd learned over the course of his 2+ years being a very successful Amazon seller. And so then it was just a matter of me having the capital and time to go and execute on all of the things that he taught me in order to be successful. So within my first 2 months, November, December 2022, I did over $100,000 in sales and over $20,000 in profit. Starting to feel good again. Sneakers was doing that, but then that all died. Amazon FBA, I was able to achieve it much quicker. I still had kind of that big period of making no money or even losing money, February to October of 2022. But then once I really took it seriously, once I invested in myself, I invested in a system, I was able to achieve results and get that proof of concept that I absolutely needed. And so then in 2023, once I actually knew what I was doing, I had an explosive year. And so as you can see, just month over month, slow and steady growth. I mean, I say slow and steady, but this is pretty exponential growth, where in January, I was doing right around $20,000 in sales. This was taken right around December 20th of 2023. For this month, I ended up doing over $600,000 just in that month of December. And the cool thing about this, I was able to leverage a lot of the things that I learned from being a sneaker reseller. So things like tax exemption and being able to purchase things tax-free and ship them here to me in California. Things like prep centers to ship products elsewhere, have them procure them before they actually go to Amazon's warehouse, finding different discounts and just different ways in which to lower your buy costs on different items so that you can buy them at a great price, a very low price, and then sell them. Even for the same price, if I get a lower cost than other people, I'm able to make substantially more money. And so all these different tips and tricks and cool things that I learned from sneakers and then from this mentorship program was able to just translate into this super, super explosive growth chart that you see on the screen right now. But if you're serious about starting your own Amazon FBA business and getting results like Truck, who's making over 5 figures in profit every single month, or like Bin, who's hitting consistent 6-figure sales months, or Naomi, who's tripled her business from $20,000 in sales to over $60,000 in sales, all while working a full-time job, while having a family and a child to tend to, then you're gonna wanna be in my private community. I have a link down below. It's a WAP link where you get a whole bunch of course content. It's completely free. All I'm gonna ask you for is your name and your email, and you have to have a WAP account. And then you get inside, and it's where I help people one-on-one for completely free. I just want people to have the same sort of transformation and kickstart the journey to making money online and achieving financial freedom. So you're gonna wanna go and click that link. Again, completely free. Name, email, WAP account. That's it. So go get that taken care of, and let's jump into the nitty-gritty on how you can actually start and scale your Amazon FBA business just like I did. The problem with most people that you see online is they either don't actually do the business model they're teaching you, or they give you half-truths that'll keep you from ever making your first sale and having success. So here's the real roadmap to starting Amazon in 2025. And I'm gonna need you to listen to this closely because you can absolutely lose money doing Amazon. You can absolutely fall into these different pitfalls. You can absolutely hit these different speed bumps that keep sellers from being successful and actually end up losing money. And so this business is not candidly for the weak of stomach, and it is a lot of work. I don't just make a ton of money every single month because it's easy and because everyone can do it. If you want to be successful with this, you're going to need a system. But luckily, with all the resources that are available, all the free information that's out there, and all the good information that's out there, you can use that and leverage it to absolutely kill it with this business model. So I've created a doc with the 5 steps that every single seller needs to start with when they're first getting started with their Amazon business. And this doc is actually available within the Discord and within the WAP community that we have. So again, click that link down below. But I know this video is getting a little long. I don't want you to wear out or get distracted. And so I'm just gonna real quick go through the 5 steps. The first is create a business entity like an LLC or another business entity. Create your seller account at this link. Work on getting ungated for the brands that you'd like to sell. Purchase a Keepa subscription and purchase an Identify subscription. And if you want a much more detailed breakdown on every single one of these steps, I actually have a video where I go over them more in depth. You can access it likely right here. You just click right here, go right to that video, and then you'll have the exact 5-step process in detail for what I did to start and scale my business to $5 million in sales in just 2 years. So again, if you want to be like the people that I work with on a consistent basis that are crushing it and making life-changing money every single month with this business model, then you should click that down below and I'll see you inside the group. But that's gonna be it for this video. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching, and peace.